Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Barnes.
And I'm Mark Langley.
This week's podcast is all about spooking. I'm going to jump straight into it with a first question because it's going to highlight some very common areas for anyone who has a horse that gets spooky out on trail. It's from Stacey from Canada. She was out on a horse hike and came across some cows. She learned that the horse was very concerned about cows and their head came up, they were fixated and trumpeting and a big freeze. She interrupted that by getting her horse to circle around her, but the movement just seemed to increase her anxiety, so she led her back and forth until they found a spot where she was a bit calmer. She became a little bit pushy in the shoulder and they changed direction when that happened, but she's looking for suggestions on how she can help her with scary cows and what perhaps she should have been doing in the first interaction with them, because she knows there's going to be other scary moments ahead.
Yeah, I'm guessing a horse hike is when you're leading your horse out and hiking, or you're hiking with your horse.
It sounds to me like she's on the ground because she was leading her, yes.
Oh, that's right. Yep, righto. Sort of cool. So basically, we're testing how easily we can get our horses to let go of a thought all the time. So, I go back and look at all the little sort of things, the times that your horse has kind of slightly strong thoughts, not massive ones that make them trumpet, but just how much does it take for you to get them to let go of that thought? Could you just pick up a rope and they just let go easy and let go of it? And then when you've sort of loosened the rope, can they go back to that thought and regulate themselves? The other thing is it common that she kind of stares and freezes when she has frights? If she stares and freezes when she has frights, then obviously you really want to be saying, let go of the thought and move softly with me. I wouldn't put them on circles, as in, send them around and move their feet like that. I tend to just sort of get them to do something, like I'd do something like clap big, do something big and say, let go of the thought. And then I might just kind of walk backwards with her so she gets aware of me, even if it was just with her eyes, not even with the lead rope. And I just back away from the cattle. And if she's sort of frozen, I just, do something, bang my legs and get her to back away and just sort of move back with me until we sort of walk off in another direction. But basically it's just about getting big enough to distract her from that thought and then offering her an alternative. That alternative could be even just like I said, back up, wait with me, or I'll lead you somewhere else and let go of that thought. But then as you've got her to let go of the thought, then the next thing you do is loosen the rope, let them have another look, okay? With any situations anywhere, so if you want to sort of get her more confident with the cattle, backing away from different things is a very good thing to do, so they can back away from the scary mud that's in front of them that they've got to think about walking through or anything like that. So a horse has to have a very loose withdrawal system, and reverse is a good one for that. So basically anytime a horse is nervous, it's very good to put movement through them, but not the movement of sending them away from pressure, but, just softly move away from the danger, but they've got to let go of the danger with their thoughts. And most horses that actually are nice and mentally and physically mobile, they tend to process new scary things a lot better. Okay, so look, if she's a bit of a gazy, freezy horse in normal circumstances, see if you can sort of get her more mobile in her thoughts in the normal circumstances, so she adjusts very easily to little interruptions that scare her outside.
This is perhaps back at home before you even go out on trail?
Yep, okay. Anywhere. And then give her an alternative. So every time she has a bit of a spook, instead of stand and focus on it for a bit, lead her into a pathway somewhere else. So you take her to safety. You might only move about 2 metres away to make her feel like she's got to move away from danger, and then turn around and have another look. And if she can turn around and have another look and process it better, and she might just let go of things herself. So most of the horses that are a bit like that, there's a lot of little exercises that we can do at home that build up their ability to act on their thoughts a lot better and let go of strong thoughts a lot better. and it all comes through leading and good distractions and things like that. But as I say, after a distraction, you have to offer them a pathway of softness. So imagine it in a situation like this, in a herd without humans. There's a big spook. One confident horse goes, well, it's a big enough spook to shift the herd, and the rest of and then the herd follow the field over the hill to a safe place. So basically, same scenario. The cows, big distraction. Horse goes, okay, and you say, well, don't you fixate on the cattle. I'll lead you to safety. Distract the horse. So you distract the horse, lead them a little bit to safety, keep their mind off it for a little bit till they soft, and then righto, we might have another look around or whatever, but otherwise you are the new herd that leads that horse to safety. You don't overface them on the scary thing for too long. You usually take them away a little bit so they've felt that they've gone away from it, so they can turn around and softly process it. Because being able to move away makes them come down a little bit to be able to process the thing they originally spooked at.
I'm going to pick you up on a couple of things there. You said that putting her in a circle around you, getting her to move in that way, wouldn't offer a change of thought. And I imagine a lot of people think it would, and that's why they use it. Can you just explain very quickly about that?
Like it got a bit big in horsemanship circles that, you move their feet because they heard someone say, if you move your horse's feet, control the feet, control the mind. Unfortunately, that is true to a certain extent. So there's times, and I showed some people at the last clinic how I just picked up on a horse, and the horse was quite stressed and destinating a lot, and I was just getting it to back a step and forward a step and back a step, and every time it had a strong forward thought, I just pushed back and to let go of the thought and step back a step, and then then I'd ask forward again, and then so I was only moving its feet like not even half a foot. Just to soften it into the holder, but I said to everyone, look, I'm trying to control the horse's feet to get this horse to soften, but ultimately I was feeling for the strong thoughts and putting a little sort of interruption and a block and then a pathway in those thoughts to help the horse follow the feel that I was asking. Whereas some other trainer could have come along and said, look, I'm going to control the feet, and sent the horse out on a circle away from them, but just almost made the horse feel like they're pushing them away and saying, I don't want you here either. So, you don't have to control their feet by making them go around fast. You can do something very simple. It could be just a step back or a little hindquarter yield where you've just asked the horse to soften and follow a feel, but not drive them around or make them feel like you don't want them there. And that's what unfortunately happened, is people drove them away in a circle and sent them this way, and it just fried them more. It made them feel more unsafe because the big scary thing was over there. Then the leader of the herd chose to push him out of the herd, and it's like, well, that's what not definitely not what the horse needs.
No, because it's quite anxious. So when you using your example of getting them to sort of go backwards away from the object that's scaring them, that's also getting them to reconsider you, isn't it? To bring you back into the picture and go, hey, I'm here and I'm calm.
The reason, the backwards is to say, well, one, you don't want them running into you when they get a fright, and you have to establish that away from the scary things. But two, backwards is a good way of removing yourself from something scary without preloading your hindquarter to run off. So a lot of horses preload the hindquarter when they get a big visual spook, and they sort of are ready and they're pre-sprung to jump and run off. So a backup actually unloads the hindquarter, unloads the tension in the body, gets them to think backwards. So they think backwards away from the object, but they also unload the tension in their body through reverse. And in most cases, I've found it's a really good mental way to withdraw yourself from a danger without doing it in a forward flight movement. So
it offers a reset.
It offers a reset, but some people, I don't want everyone to go and chase their horse back in fear. It's just about, let go of the forward thought and then but if you teach it away from the scary things, and when the horse is really good at emotionally going backwards, when you ask it to go backwards, you could just gently back out and the horse goes, okay, think backwards. And I've done that a lot with horses that they've had a strong forward thought, and I've just reset them, given them a backward thought, and then I've let them carry that backward thought until they have withdrawn themselves and they're feeling okay.
So having that solid education is actually quite key because you need to tap into it when you're outside.
That's
okay,
it.
so it falls back on that. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. It's from Jenny. This time it's under saddle, so a little bit more of a complicated situation. She's from WA in Australia. When she rides on trails, relaxation is not happening. She's wondering how she can slow down her horse. So doing flexes, moving around to follow the reins is all okay, but as soon as she takes pressure off the reins, he speeds up again. And this is perhaps only on an 8K ride. She's been riding with 5 other horses. All of them have been good. So she's worried that her horse hates her and doesn't want to be there. In arenas, he is slow, a bit shut down and robotic. He's spooking often at home and out.
This is my cat. The horse at the last masterclass at Adelaide was a little roan quarter horse. He came to the clinic because he was spooky outside, but he presented as a pretty quiet horse in the arena. But he was kind of braced up in the front, bit shut down, like a lot of horses that I come across that have been sort of, worked a lot in the arena and not outside. But the key to me is I never ride a dull horse outside, as in, well, I used to, but then I learnt the same way as you're learning with your horse that outside you've got a whole can of worms that you're trying to deal with. But the duller and less thoughtful the horse is in the arena, the more it's kind of hiding away, and it's a horse that doesn't have a lot of confidence or it's been a bit shut down. And some of the horses have been ridden a lot in the past with spurs and things like that. They got so used to just thinking about where the pressure is but not thinking at all that they don't think at all. So in the arena, if you were a rider that, I don't ride in spurs, I don't do this, I just want to have a nice horse. Well, because they've been ridden with so much pressure to get them to move, and you take that pressure off, they don't do much at all. But because they've never been taught to think, they don't think, which means they don't process their environment. They're not going towards their thoughts. They're not breathing the air as it goes. They're not sort of absorbing all the things that are happening. So they just feel like dull horses in the arena. So basically, because they're not thinking through situations in the arena, they're not going towards their thoughts, they're just a bit of a stuck horse that doesn't know what to do. So it's your horse is bound to be like that on trail because of its dullness in the arena. It's kind of like just about every dull horse. If, any person that's come to my clinic, I mean, give or take a few, I mean, not saying, but most of the dull horses that are hiding away a bit that have come to my clinics, everyone has the same problem. But when I'm out, there's a moment that it suddenly blows up and I just can't get them back. Okay, so it's not about what you do outside. You can't do anything outside because it sounds like you're already on the red line there.
It's too late.
It's too late.
Mm-hmm.
What you got to do, and this is the same with this little roan horse at the clinic, the two things that we did was I went really quiet and I got him to lead. So leading means he had to search. So instead of chasing him around on a circle so he's looking at my energy and relying on my energy to carry him, I said, no, I'm just going to stand really still, look like I'm lazy, and you're going to learn to move and search around me. And it's such a powerful thing, doing nothing and get your horse to do something and actually slowly search. So then what happened, he started to flick his ears and search and walk around me and then walk out on a straight line and go, oh, this bloke's pretty useless, isn't he? He's just kind of, doing hardly anything and just letting me do what I want. Oh, I'm just going to go and, So I say to people, have a bit of a joke. I say, well, I'm just like the grandparents come to my place and I'll load them up full of sugar, then I'll send them home. So I just have a bit of a joke because I said, well, his horse is with me. He's thinking I'm pretty useless and he can just wander around and look around, and every now and again I just might pull the rope and walk off in a new direction. But after a while, because I'm so calm and just asking him to do something, he gets a little bit naughty and he goes, oh, I'm going to think over there and I'm going to sniff that and I'm going to think over there and I'm going to sniff that. Well, that's what I wanted. I wanted them to crawl out of their little hole and start to search and things like that. And when you ride, the reason why I do a lot of one range starts, the one range start, and this is what I want you to practice, and it's for everyone else to also think about. The one range start is not it's not only just to get a horse to follow the feel of a rein and start to follow and search in the rein. The one range start is to start a thought of movement in a horse. So basically, the one range start is designed in some respects to say standing's not available. So after a while, every time the horse stands, you pick up the rein and steer it. So you still want accurate steering where the horse is balanced in their turns. But then after a while, the horse goes, every time I stand, they ask me to think and search again. And after a while, it takes a little bit, that horse starts to search and start to go out and move. And that's how you get perpetual motion. So basically you get to a point that you can't stop your horse unless you've asked it to stop properly. So you can sit there, you can take a right rein and a left rein, just basic reins, and the horse won't stop. So because of that one rein start and the horse not stopping, because they're not anchoring, so those horses are a bit shut down, they're kind of anchoring all the time and they're not searching. So basically you're saying that anchor's not available, and you might have to say it a lot of times, but after a while they won't anchor. And then when they don't anchor and there's no opportunity to anchor, they'll start to probe the arena and search and travel and get their confidence back, and they'll start to move. And you take that horse that has nice forward thoughts. Now, obviously, when you're teaching forward thoughts in the arena, you've got to teach backward thoughts as well. So you still got to say backwards is available too. But as soon as you've done backwards, you might take the rein and say, but don't anchor after the back up yet until you've got that nice perpetual motion. So once you've got perpetual motion, the horse is thinking, it's thinking forwards, it's thinking backwards, it's thinking left, it's thinking right, because it was the first thing that got that horse to go was left and right. So you've got pretty well 4 directions, forwards, backwards, left, right. Really, they're the main things you need to ride a horse out. Now, you've done that by getting your horse not kicking it, not chasing it, not pushing it. You've just done it through leading skills. You'll do that. If you do that for a while and you just ride outside and then ride your horse back, ride outside, ride your horse back, you might start to see a different style of horse that you're riding, that's processing and thinking and breathing. And that horse will be the horse that you can start to ride on trail with other horses. But that perpetual motion is it's like the silver bullet in the sense. And if you can get that, your horse will change.
The next question comes from Melissa, and it's just, I think you sort of covered it a little bit in that answer, but she wanted to know if you can change a horse's personality. So say your horse has low energy and they're happy and content to take life at an easy pace. Can you change that to a horse that perhaps a little bit with more energy? Or if you have a horse that's got energy to burn, can you change it into a low energy horse? Should you try to mold them, or should you just try and find a different horse that suits your requirements?
I remember there was a program of horsemanship that started to talk about different personalities, horsenality. And it's very hard to assess a horse's personality. The only way you can really assess a horse's personality is when you've watched them as foals in a herd and how they act and how they operate, and you know what they're like. A lot of people assess their horse's personality, but they're actually looking at a horse that's already got certain life coping mechanisms and things like that. So they're not. It's very hard to make an assessment on a horse's personality if it's already sort of so many years into life and training and being around people. So, you know, when I assess any horses, I have to do a fix first. That's the hardest thing. So I'll just go through the horses that I've seen. I've had some horses they're thoughtful, they're very aware, and they've got lovely perpetual motion, and they're constantly sort of moving, going horses. And then you get the other types that kind of a little bit more stoic, and they stand a bit more, and they're not. They're just if everyone they're going to be more the sort of casual one that's not doing as much, and then you get the bouncy ones and things like that. Every one of those horses you can get the real bouncy, energetic horse to just be soft and walk, trot, and canter without running off, because that's all anxiety. So, but they're still more of a curious horse that's constantly thinking and they learn very quickly. So they'll always be like that, and you don't want to change that. The ones that seem a bit dull, you can actually get them a little bit more aware and curious, but you sometimes have to add more stimulant. So you're not going to necessarily change them completely, but you can add so education in there. So the over curious horse that kind of like is really, you know, you can put more caution in them without changing their personality. But with that caution, they become a little bit more, you know, reserved in situations, think through things a bit better. And then the horse that just sort of doesn't move much at all, or you can actually create little things in training to get them to search and move a little bit more, and then they get a little bit more curious. They want to do a bit more, and things like that. You can change them, but you're not going to completely change the horse. But as I said before, you know, some of the horses that don't move at clinics and they look really lazy, they're actually not that at all. They're just been turned into that. So when someone says horses don't lie, I say, yeah, but they may not lie, but they withhold the truth. And it's usually life and training that's made them withhold the truth. So it's very hard to assess your horse's true personality unless you've sort of taken them out of a bit of a freeze, or you know, a few other things, because high energy horses are sometimes just anxious horses now, you know, whereas when it was a baby, it wasn't as high energy. It just was a very sensitive horse. And out in the paddock, it's not that high energy. It's just when it's with people, it's high energy, but that's the anxiety in it. So yeah, you got room to improve that horse's personality to fit in with life and people. But there's always going to be certain things that are going to stay with that horse forever that actually sometimes don't really want to change. And that's why some styles of horses suit people more than other people.
Okay, and just briefly, your next question is from Maura, and she'd like to know, it's slightly off topic, but just going to slip this one in here for her. She's recently acquired a beautiful 8-year-old Whaler. He's very friendly and solid, but he has the habit of interacting with mouthiness and sometimes nips or nibbles, sometimes even with teeth. He wants to interact and will follow calmly with or without the halter. He was only gelded 18 months ago. He's green under saddle, so she's wondering if this is his way of interacting and communicating. She's just not sure how she should be responding to him, and she doesn't want to lose respect from him for her.
Well, I'm not sure either on that one, because the reason I'm not sure is because there's times if a horse is communicating through a bit of mouthiness and stuff like that, they could be playful and they want to play. So basically, if he's playful and he wants to play a bit, then that's okay. But he's also got to have caution and ways of asking. So if you want to do a bit of grooming and bit of playful stuff, but you've got to be careful if he's a bit colty, playing doesn't turn into the playing that you don't want to do with him, which is, you know, rough and tumble sort of play. So you don't want to turn that mouthiness into something that snowballs into something that's you know, a couple of colty or geldings having a wrestle. So you don't want that sort of play. If he's just mouthy for a groom or something like that, then, well, with grooming, I try and say, can you ask nicely first and stand instead of just coming and asking. So I wouldn't say, oh, yeah, I'm going to groom you and let you mouth me and then I'll scratch you and things like that. I don't want them to be too curious without caution. So I'd like them to come in a little bit more cautiously, wait a little bit, and then I can instigate those things that they like. Some horses are mouthy because they've got trouble in them and they don't know how to be quiet in their mind because there's anxiety in them, could be through the training, other things like that, and then it comes out through mouthiness. So with that, I'd just say, no, just stand over there quietly, and I'd so give them, you know, let them stand about 3 or 4 meters away from me until they let go of the anxiety. So my gut feel is I'd say maybe create a space between you and him. And get him to sort of understand that's the distance I'm going to stay away for a little bit until you can see him just go, I'm really happy. I'm not wanting to do something. So I'd be worried about letting him come in and always mouth. And then next minute he just thinks every time he comes over, when he's worried, when he's playful, when he's whatever, he's going to come and mouth and it turns into something else. So I'd be more like stand over there and let go of your baggage. If it was a sign of communication, well, it is, but what's he communicating? That's what you've got to know. You know, what is he communicating? Is it anxiety? Is it playfulness? Is it aggression? Is it any one of those things? And so basically, you're not going to shut down a horse by saying stand over there for a little while and have your own space and just be present and then walk up softly to him and interact with him. But if you don't like that nippy, hard interaction of like that, then you don't have to do it or listen to it. But I'm always very wary. That's why I don't have a specific answer for you, because I'm always very wary, because sometimes it's nice to allow a horse to do that a little bit. If they've come out of being shut down and they just getting a bit curious and they're starting to communicate, well, that's the sort of mouthiness I might allow and let them do that. But it sounds, I don't think he's like that. I think he's a bit more, there sounds like there's a boisterous sort of feel to him by the feels of it.
Hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to set boundaries if you're not comfortable with what he's doing. I think that's the bottom line of what you're saying.
It's not being aggressive towards him and saying get off me and smacking him or saying don't do that. It's just saying don't be close to me while you're wriggling. But you watch him, I bet his mind's wriggling. It's like you'll be a little worm inside him going around inside him, and usually those ones that are doing that, you see that little worm going around inside their head, and you just go, well, no, while that worm's spinning around, whether it be a bit of extra playfulness or anxiety or too much curiosity without caution, then just stand at a distance and you just sort of say, okay, 2 metres, as soon as your nose goes past 2 metres, no, and do something to make him step back. But you're not being angry with him, you're just saying, that's where I'd like you to stay, until he breathes and he says, okay, well, I'll stand here then. And he lets go of that, destination thought of, this is what I want to do.
And there are some videos of Mark doing that on the membership too. If that interests you, Maura, it's just about creating boundaries, building leadership and trust. They might just trigger something that's relevant for you.
Just quickly, sorry, Jenny, but for everyone on this one, is sometimes if a horse comes over and it anxiously muzzles us and not grooms us, but nips us and muzzles us, and it's anxiety. I know sometimes we're encouraged to, it's like you said, it may be by doing something, am I not listening? But sometimes you have to be also careful. If you listen to anxiety, sometimes you can actually fuel and reward anxiety. And that's why these areas are, it's very important to sort of just be cautious on.
Something to think about there by the sounds of that. Thank you for Mark. You're always giving us things to think about, alternative perspectives, and of course we know they work so well in helping horses to just have that ability to self-regulate, which helps them to be much happier. So it's all very important stuff. Thank you very much for your questions that have come through from our online members, and we love having you out there. It enables us to do what we do. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. And thank you, Mark, for your time and your answers this week.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to Australia's very own Mark Langley, a horseman with many insights from his decades of dabbling. Jump online to keep learning. marklangley.com.au